Right now, somewhere in the world, there's an American citizen who has no idea they're already on a path that could cost them their U.S. passport forever. They think their citizenship is permanent, unshakable, guaranteed for life. But here's the truth. It's way more complicated than that. Under U.S. law, there are real legal ways you can lose American citizenship even after holding it for decades. And a lot of people don't find out until it's way too late. Imagine you're living abroad, making what seems like a totally normal decision, taking a job, joining a program, signing an oath, and then later finding out that one single action put your citizenship at risk. Imagine thinking you're protected by the Constitution only to learn that your own choices can undo that protection. This isn't me trying to scare you. This isn't speculation. This is actual U.S. law that exists right now in February 2026. Today, you're going to learn about 7 shocking but completely legal reasons someone can lose U.S. citizenship. Some are obvious, others will surprise you, and a few might make you rethink decisions you've already made or are planning to make. If you're already a U.S. citizen, this could help you avoid a life-changing mistake. And if you're a green card holder working towards citizenship, understanding these rules is just as important because becoming an American is only part of the journey. Knowing how to keep that citizenship is the other half. By the end of this video, you'll clearly understand what actions can put citizenship in danger, how the government looks at those actions, and most importantly, how to protect yourself from ever facing this nightmare. What you're about to hear could change the way you think about American citizenship forever. Hi, I'm Sophia, and if you care about your immigration status, your legal future, and your rights in the United States, you're in exactly the right place. Every day I break down complex immigration and citizenship laws into clear, simple, real-world information so ordinary people can understand rules that often feel overwhelming and confusing. Too many people assume that once they become American citizens, nothing can ever take that status away. Unfortunately, that's not always true. U.S. citizenship is one of the strongest legal protections in the world, but it's not completely untouchable. There are specific situations written directly into federal law that can result in losing it. Most Americans never think about these rules until they're suddenly affected by them. That's why this conversation matters so much. Whether you were born in the United States, naturalized years ago, or you're currently on the path to becoming a citizen, understanding how citizenship can be lost is just as essential as understanding how it's gained. In this video, I'm going to walk you through each of the 7 legal reasons step by step in plain English with practical examples so everything is easy to follow. We'll also talk about a powerful legal principle that protects most citizens from losing their status, a principle that runs through every part of this topic. My goal is simple. I want to make sure you never accidentally put your American citizenship in jeopardy because of something you didn't know. So take a deep breath, stay with me, and let's start unpacking what every U.S. citizen and every future citizen needs to understand. Before we jump directly into the 7 reasons, there's something really important we need to understand first. Not all citizenship loss happens the same way. Under U.S. law, there are actually 2 completely different legal paths through which someone can lose American citizenship. The first path is called denaturalization. This applies only to people who became citizens through the naturalization process. Denaturalization happens when the government proves in court that you got citizenship illegally, usually because of fraud, lying on an application, or hiding critical information during the immigration process. That's a serious legal procedure initiated by the government. But that's not what we're focusing on today. The second path, and the one we're talking about in this video, is something called expatriation, also known as loss of nationality. Expatriation is very different from denaturalization. Instead of the government taking citizenship away because of fraud, expatriation usually happens because of voluntary actions taken by the citizen themselves. In other words, citizenship can be lost not because the government decided to punish you, but because of choices you personally made. The legal foundation for all of this comes from a federal law called the Immigration and Nationality Act, specifically Section 349. That section lists the exact acts that can result in losing U.S. citizenship. But here's the most critical point of this entire video, something you must remember as we go through every reason. Under modern constitutional law, American citizenship cannot simply be taken away without your consent. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that the government must prove you intended to give up your citizenship. Intent is everything. That single word, intent, is the key that unlocks this entire topic. Performing one of the acts on the list is not automatically enough. The government must also show that you did it with the purpose of giving up your U.S. nationality. This legal protection is what prevents thousands of innocent Americans from accidentally losing citizenship every year. And as we move through the 7 reasons, you'll see again and again how this principle shapes every decision the government makes. Now let's begin with the first shocking reason someone can lose U.S. citizenship. This one surprises a lot of people because it seems so common and harmless on the surface. A U.S. citizen can lose their citizenship by voluntarily getting naturalization in a foreign country. In simple terms, if you're already an American and you later apply to become a citizen of another nation, that act can put your U.S. citizenship at risk. But this is where many people get confused. Just having dual citizenship doesn't automatically cause a problem. Millions of Americans legally hold 2 passports. Being born with citizenship in another country or inheriting it through parents is completely fine. What matters here is voluntary naturalization as an adult. If a U.S. citizen chooses to go through a formal process to become a citizen of another country, that can be considered an expatriating act under the law. However, once again, intent plays the central role. Under current State Department policy, the government doesn't assume that someone who naturalizes abroad wants to give up their American citizenship. In fact, the default assumption is usually the opposite. They assume you want to keep both. So when does this become dangerous? It becomes dangerous when the circumstances show that you clearly meant to abandon your U.S. nationality. For example, if someone applies for citizenship in another country and during that process makes statements rejecting the United States or declaring that they no longer consider themselves American, that can be used as evidence of intent. If they sign documents explicitly saying they renounce all previous allegiances, including allegiance to the United States, that can create serious legal problems. On the other hand, if someone becomes a Canadian or British or Australian citizen simply for practical reasons like easier travel, better job opportunities, or the ability to own property, and they continue to live as an American, keep their U.S. passport, pay U.S. taxes, and maintain ties to the United States, then there's usually no issue at all. The difference between those two situations isn't the act itself, but the intention behind it. For green card holders watching this point is especially important. When you eventually become a U.S. citizen, you may still have connections to your country of birth. You might someday consider becoming a citizen there as well. That's not automatically forbidden, but you must be extremely careful to ensure that nothing you say or sign suggests that you intend to abandon your American citizenship. History shows that some people really have lost their citizenship this way, often because they didn't fully understand the legal consequences of what they were doing. The lesson here is simple but powerful. Becoming a citizen of another country isn't automatically dangerous, but doing it carelessly without understanding how U.S. law views that decision absolutely can be. The second reason someone can lose U.S. citizenship is closely connected to the first, but it deserves its own discussion because it happens more often than people realize. Taking an oath of allegiance to a foreign country can, under certain circumstances, put American citizenship at risk. On the surface, this might sound extreme, but in reality, many countries require some form of oath or declaration when granting citizenship, government positions, or even certain professional licenses. The key question isn't simply whether an oath was taken, but what that oath actually meant and what you intended when taking it. Not every foreign oath is treated the same under U.S. law. For example, if a dual citizen takes a routine citizenship oath in another country as part of a standard naturalization ceremony, and that oath is mainly symbolic or administrative, the U.S. government usually doesn't view that as an attempt to abandon American citizenship. Many people take such oaths simply because they want practical benefits like easier travel, the ability to work without restrictions, or the right to live permanently in another country. In those situations, there's typically no problem. But imagine a very different scenario. Suppose a U.S. citizen takes an oath that explicitly says, I renounce all previous allegiances, including allegiance to the United States of America. Suppose they make public statements declaring that they no longer consider themselves American. Suppose they refuse to renew their U.S. passport and begin acting in every way like someone who has permanently rejected their U.S. nationality. In that case, the government may conclude that the oath wasn't just a formality, but a deliberate step toward giving up American citizenship. The State Department looks at the totality of circumstances in each individual case. They examine the exact wording of the oath, the context in which it was taken, and your behavior afterward. Did you continue to live as an American? Did you keep filing U.S. taxes? Did you maintain ties to the United States? Or did you take additional steps that clearly signaled a desire to break away from your American identity? Two people can take very similar oaths and end up with completely different legal outcomes simply because their intentions were different. This is why it's so important to be careful and fully informed whenever you're asked to swear allegiance to another country. Words spoken in an official ceremony can carry more legal weight than many people realize. The takeaway is clear. Taking a foreign oath doesn't automatically strip you of U.S. citizenship, but doing so with the intent to reject America absolutely can. Understanding that distinction can save someone from making a devastating and irreversible mistake. Now let's move to the third reason, one that often raises strong emotions and complicated questions. Serving in the armed forces of a foreign country can also lead to loss of U.S. citizenship. This is an area of law filled with nuance, exceptions, and real-world complexity. Many people assume that any military service for another nation would automatically be considered a betrayal of the United States. In reality, the law is far more detailed and specific than that. The United States recognizes that Americans have deep family, cultural, and personal ties to other countries. Because of that, not all foreign military service is treated the same way. The most serious and dangerous scenario is serving in the military of a country that's hostile to the United States, especially if that service involves taking up arms against American forces. In such a case, the government may view the act as fundamentally incompatible with U.S. citizenship. But what about serving in the military of an allied nation? Over the years, many Americans have served in the armed forces of friendly countries without losing their citizenship. For example, dual citizens have joined the militaries of close U.S. allies for family or cultural reasons and have still kept their American nationality. The law looks carefully at several factors. Was the country an enemy of the United States or a close partner? Did you serve as an ordinary enlisted member, or did you become a commissioned officer? Did you take an oath that rejected your U.S. allegiance? And most importantly, did you intend to give up your American citizenship by joining that foreign military? Even the level and nature of service can matter. Serving briefly in a non-combat role is very different from becoming a high-ranking officer in a foreign military that opposes U.S. interests. Once again, intent is the deciding factor. Without clear evidence that someone meant to abandon their American nationality, the government is unlikely to treat foreign military service alone as enough to take citizenship away. For green card holders, this issue often comes up in a different way. Some immigrants served in foreign militaries before coming to the United States. In most cases, that prior service doesn't prevent them from later becoming U.S. citizens as long as it's properly disclosed during the immigration process. But for someone who's already a U.S. citizen, choosing to join a foreign military is a decision that should never be made lightly. It's one of the clearest examples of an action that could potentially be interpreted as shifting allegiance away from the United States. The practical lesson is simple. If you're an American citizen and you're considering any form of foreign military service, getting professional legal advice first is absolutely essential. A decision made out of pride, family tradition, or opportunity could have consequences far beyond what you ever imagined. The fourth reason someone can lose U.S. citizenship is one that almost no one thinks about until they're already in the middle of it. Accepting certain types of employment with a foreign government can, under specific circumstances, put American citizenship at risk. At first, this sounds strange. Millions of Americans live and work overseas. Many of them interact with foreign governments in one way or another. So how could a simple job possibly threaten something as important as citizenship? The answer lies in the nature of the position and the intentions behind accepting it. Under U.S. law, there are two main categories of foreign government employment that can be considered potentially expatriating acts. The first category involves accepting or serving in any office, post, or employment under the government of a foreign state when you're also a national of that country, or when the position requires an oath of allegiance to that foreign government. The second category involves taking a role that includes high-level policy-making responsibilities for a foreign government. In other words, the law is most concerned about situations where a U.S. citizen appears to be shifting their primary loyalty from the United States to another nation. But this doesn't mean that every job connected to a foreign government is dangerous. Far from it. A U.S. citizen working as a language teacher at a public university overseas, serving as a technical consultant, or even working as an administrative employee at a foreign embassy is usually not at any real risk. Those kinds of routine non-political positions rarely raise any red flags. The situations that attract serious scrutiny are very different. Imagine a U.S. citizen who becomes a cabinet minister in another country, or a senior diplomat, or a high-ranking official responsible for shaping the policies of a foreign government. In those cases, the U.S. government may question whether that person has effectively transferred their allegiance. Even then, intent remains the crucial factor. The mere fact of holding such a job is not automatically enough to cancel citizenship. The government would still need to show that you accepted the position with the purpose of giving up your American nationality. Did you continue to present yourself as American? Did you maintain ties to the United States? Or did you make statements and take actions indicating that you now considered yourself solely loyal to another nation? These are the questions that determine the outcome. For most ordinary people, this rule will never become an issue. But for dual citizens, international professionals, and people deeply involved in global politics, it's something that must be taken seriously. Accepting a prestigious foreign government position may feel like a career achievement, but without proper legal guidance, it can carry hidden consequences. The message here isn't to avoid working abroad or engaging with other governments. The message is to understand how U.S. law views those choices and to make them with full awareness. A dream job offer should never accidentally turn into a citizenship nightmare. The fifth reason for losing U.S. citizenship is the most direct and the most deliberate. It happens when you formally renounce your American citizenship before a U.S. diplomatic or consular officer abroad. Unlike the other reasons we've discussed, this one isn't about interpretation, context, or guessing someone's intent. This is a clear, intentional, and voluntary decision to stop being an American citizen. The process is very formal and very serious. To renounce citizenship, you must appear in person at a U.S. embassy or consulate outside the United States. You must sign official documents, take an oath of renunciation, and make an explicit statement that you no longer wish to be a U.S. citizen. The government requires that this decision be made freely, without pressure, and with full understanding of the consequences, and those consequences are enormous. Renouncing U.S. citizenship is usually permanent and irreversible. Once it's done, you lose the right to live in the United States as a citizen, the right to vote in American elections, and the protection of a U.S. passport. In many cases, returning to the United States, even for visits, can become difficult or uncertain. There can also be serious financial implications. U.S. tax law imposes potential exit taxes on certain individuals who give up their citizenship, and former citizens may still have ongoing reporting obligations. So why would anyone take such a drastic step? People renounce citizenship for many different reasons. Some do it because they want to fully commit to another country. Others do it because of complex tax situations. A few do it for political or personal beliefs. Whatever the motivation, the law treats renunciation as one of the most solemn decisions a person can make. Every year, several thousand Americans go through this process. But compared to the overall number of U.S. citizens, it's still extremely rare. For green card holders watching, this topic offers an important perspective. Many people spend years working toward the goal of becoming American citizens. They study for the test, pay fees, attend interviews, and finally take the oath of allegiance with pride. Yet the law also recognizes that citizenship is ultimately a personal choice. Just as someone can choose to become American, they can also choose to stop being American. But that choice isn't something to be taken lightly or made in a moment of frustration or confusion. Once citizenship is given up through formal renunciation, getting it back is extraordinarily difficult and, in most cases, impossible. The lesson is clear. Renouncing U.S. citizenship is always an option under the law, but it's an option with lifelong consequences. Anyone even considering such a step must think carefully, seek professional advice, and fully understand what they're about to lose. Citizenship, once surrendered this way, is rarely regained. The sixth reason someone can lose U.S. citizenship is one that very few people have ever heard about because it's rarely used in modern times. Under U.S. law, you can renounce your citizenship while physically inside the United States during a time of war. Normally, as we just discussed, renunciation must take place outside the country at a U.S. embassy or consulate. That's the standard rule. But Congress created a special exception for extraordinary circumstances. During wartime, the law allows a U.S. citizen to give up their nationality from within the United States itself, as long as the process follows very specific legal procedures established by the Attorney General. This provision was originally designed for situations where travel abroad might be impossible or dangerous, and where questions of national loyalty were especially sensitive. It reflects an older era of American history when global conflicts created complicated issues of allegiance and identity. Even though the rule still exists on the books today, it's almost never invoked. The process is heavily controlled, and the government has broad discretion over whether to even allow such a renunciation to take place. You can't simply walk into a government office and announce you're no longer American. Formal applications must be filed, investigations are conducted, and the authorities must be satisfied that the renunciation is truly voluntary and not the result of pressure, fear, or coercion. In practical terms, this pathway to losing citizenship is more of a legal safety valve than a common occurrence. Most Americans will go their entire lives without ever encountering a situation where this rule becomes relevant. But its existence highlights something important about U.S. citizenship law. The system is designed to cover every possible scenario, even the rarest and most extreme ones. Citizenship is a serious bond between an individual and a nation, and the law recognizes that in times of war, questions of loyalty can take on special urgency. For the average viewer, the main takeaway is simple. Unless the United States is in a declared state of war and you're actively seeking to renounce your citizenship through a highly formal process, this particular rule will never affect you. But it remains part of the legal framework, a reminder that the rules surrounding citizenship have been shaped by more than 2 centuries of American history and constitutional thought. The seventh and final reason is the most severe, the most dramatic, and the most morally serious of them all. You can lose U.S. citizenship by committing treason, attempting to overthrow the U.S. government by force, or bearing arms against the United States. This category is fundamentally different from all the others we've discussed. The previous reasons generally revolve around personal choices, administrative actions, or formal legal procedures. This one strikes at the very heart of what citizenship represents. American citizenship is built on the idea of allegiance, loyalty, and shared commitment to the Constitution. When someone actively works to destroy the United States, wages war against it, or gives aid and comfort to its enemies, the law views that behavior as completely incompatible with remaining a citizen. In these extreme situations, intent is essentially built into the act itself. Unlike other expatriating acts where the government must separately prove that you meant to give up your citizenship, acts like treason automatically demonstrate a rejection of American allegiance. The U.S. Constitution defines treason very narrowly. It includes levying war against the United States or providing aid and comfort to its enemies. Throughout American history, actual convictions for treason have been incredibly rare because the legal standard is extremely high. But when such acts do occur, they represent the most serious possible breach of the citizen-nation relationship. Taking up arms against your own country, joining an enemy force, or participating in an attempt to violently overthrow the government are actions that cut directly against the oath every citizen is expected to honor. For that reason, the law treats them as legitimate grounds for losing citizenship. It's important to emphasize that this category applies only to truly extreme conduct. Criticizing the government, protesting, disagreeing with policies, or engaging in ordinary political activism can never cost you your citizenship. The United States strongly protects freedom of speech and political dissent. Losing citizenship under this provision requires actions that go far beyond disagreement and enter the realm of open hostility and betrayal. For the overwhelming majority of Americans and green card holders, this seventh reason will never come anywhere near your lives. It exists to address the most extraordinary and dangerous situations imaginable, but it serves as a powerful reminder of what citizenship ultimately represents. Being an American citizen isn't only about rights and privileges, it's also about a basic duty of loyalty to the nation and its constitutional system. When someone deliberately turns against that system in the most violent and destructive ways, the law recognizes that they've effectively chosen to sever their bond with the United States. As we step back and look at all 7 reasons together, one powerful theme connects every single one of them. That theme is intent. More than any specific action, more than any oath or job or ceremony, what truly determines whether someone loses U.S. citizenship is what was in their mind when they acted. This principle exists because of a series of landmark Supreme Court decisions that fundamentally shaped modern American citizenship law. The court made it clear that citizenship isn't just a government benefit that can be taken away at will. It's a constitutional right protected at the highest level. Because of that, the government can't strip someone of citizenship simply because they performed one of the acts listed in the Immigration and Nationality Act. They must also prove that you intended to give up your American nationality. This protection is incredibly important. Without it, millions of Americans who live abroad, work internationally, or hold dual citizenship could constantly be in danger of losing their status. Instead, the law starts with a strong presumption in favor of keeping citizenship. If a U.S. citizen takes a foreign oath for convenience, the government assumes they still want to remain American unless there's clear evidence to the contrary. If someone briefly serves in a foreign military for cultural or family reasons, the law doesn't automatically treat that as a rejection of the United States. If a dual citizen works for a foreign government in a routine capacity, that alone isn't enough to erase their American identity. Intent must be shown through explicit statements, formal documentation, or a consistent pattern of behavior that unmistakably demonstrates a desire to give up citizenship. In the absence of such evidence, citizenship usually survives even when a potentially expatriating act has technically occurred. This framework provides an enormous amount of security to ordinary people. It means that U.S. citizenship can't be lost by accident, by misunderstanding, or by a simple technical mistake. The system recognizes that modern life is global. Americans travel, work, study, and build lives all over the world. The law is designed to protect them, not to trap them. At the same time, it also respects the fact that citizenship is ultimately a personal choice. If someone truly wants to give it up and clearly expresses that intention, the law allows them to do so. Understanding this balance between protection and personal choice is the key to understanding everything we've discussed so far. No matter which of the 7 reasons we examine, the same question always stands at the center. Did you actually intend to stop being an American citizen? That single question is what decides almost every real-world case. For those of you watching who aren't yet citizens but are currently green card holders, this entire discussion carries special meaning. Many of you are on a long journey toward naturalization. You study for the civics test, gather documents, attend interviews, and dream about the day you can finally call yourself an American. It's easy to focus only on the process of becoming a citizen and forget that citizenship also comes with long-term responsibilities and expectations. Learning about the ways citizenship can be lost isn't meant to scare you. Instead, it's meant to prepare you. When you eventually stand in front of a judge or immigration officer and take the oath of allegiance, you're making a serious and meaningful commitment. You're promising loyalty to the United States, to its Constitution, and to its laws. That oath isn't just a ceremonial formality. It's the foundation of your new legal identity. Understanding how U.S. law views allegiance, loyalty, and intent helps you appreciate the weight of that moment. It also helps you make smarter decisions in the future. Many immigrants maintain deep emotional, cultural, and family ties to their countries of birth. That's completely natural and completely acceptable. Becoming an American doesn't require you to erase your past or forget where you came from. But it does mean that, from a legal perspective, your primary national allegiance shifts to the United States. If you later choose to hold dual citizenship, work abroad, or engage with foreign governments, knowing these rules will help you navigate those choices safely and confidently. Instead of stumbling into situations that could create legal confusion, you'll be able to recognize potential risks in advance. Knowledge is what protects you. The more clearly you understand both the rights and the responsibilities of U.S. citizenship, the more secure you'll be in your new status. That's why conversations like this are so important for anyone walking the path from permanent resident to full American citizen. If you've made it this far, you might be wondering what all of this means in real practical terms for everyday life. Hearing about laws and legal principles is one thing, but applying them to real situations is another. So let's talk about some common sense guidance that can help protect your citizenship, no matter where you live or what opportunities come your way. The first and most important piece of advice is simple. If you're ever considering an action that could fall into any of the 7 categories we discussed, get professional legal advice before you do anything. Don't rely on internet forums, friends, or assumptions about how the law works. Immigration and nationality law is complex, and small details can make a huge difference. An experienced immigration attorney can help you understand whether a planned action might create risk and how to structure things in a way that clearly protects your American citizenship. The second piece of practical advice is to always maintain visible, consistent ties to the United States. These ties act as powerful evidence that you never intended to give up your nationality. Keep your U.S. passport current and renew it on time. Continue filing U.S. tax returns even if you live abroad. Maintain bank accounts, property, or family connections in the United States whenever possible. Visit the country regularly if you're living overseas. All of these actions send a clear message that no matter what else you're doing in the world, you still consider yourself an American. Third, be extremely careful with any document, form, or oath that asks you to declare allegiance to another country. Read the language closely. Understand exactly what you're being asked to sign. If something suggests that you must renounce your U.S. citizenship or reject allegiance to the United States, that's a major warning sign. Never assume that such wording is just symbolic or meaningless. In legal matters, words matter enormously. Fourth, keep good records. If you ever find yourself in a situation where your intent might be questioned, documentation can make all the difference. Save copies of passports, tax filings, travel records, and any statements showing your ongoing connection to the United States. These pieces of evidence can become incredibly important if questions ever arise years later. And finally, if you believe you may have already done something that could potentially affect your citizenship, don't panic. Remember the core principle we discussed earlier. Citizenship is strongly protected, and the law presumes that people intend to keep it unless there's clear proof otherwise. Many individuals worry unnecessarily about actions that in reality pose no real threat at all. Speaking with a qualified attorney can quickly clarify your situation and give you peace of mind. The goal of this information isn't to make you afraid of living an international life. The goal is to help you live that life intelligently and safely without ever putting your American citizenship in danger. If this video has helped you understand something important about your legal future, I want to pause for just a moment. Information like this can truly change lives. Most people go through their entire lives never learning these rules until a problem suddenly appears. By watching today, you're already ahead of millions of others who assume citizenship can never be questioned. So if you appreciate having clear, honest explanations of complicated immigration and citizenship topics, take a second to support the channel. Like this video so more people can find it, share it with friends, family members, and fellow immigrants who might need this knowledge. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you never miss updates about laws and policies that directly affect your rights. Every year, rules change, court decisions come out, and new situations arise. Staying informed is one of the best ways to protect yourself and the people you care about. I also encourage you to leave a comment if you have questions or personal experiences related to this topic. Real-life stories help others understand how these laws actually play out beyond the textbooks. The more we talk openly about these issues, the stronger and more informed our community becomes. As we move toward the end of this discussion, I want to bring everything together in a way that leaves you not worried, but confident and informed. After hearing about 7 different ways citizenship can be lost, it would be easy to feel nervous or uncertain, but the larger truth is far more reassuring. The reality is that U.S. citizenship is one of the most secure legal statuses in the world. The laws we've talked about exist mainly to address rare and unusual situations, not to trap ordinary people. For the overwhelming majority of Americans, none of these 7 reasons will ever come close to affecting their lives. Most citizens will never take a foreign oath that conflicts with U.S. allegiance, never serve in a hostile military, never work in a high-ranking foreign government position, and certainly never commit acts of treason. These provisions sit at the outer edges of citizenship law, designed to handle extreme or very specific circumstances. They're not hidden traps waiting to catch everyday people. In fact, the entire legal framework is built around protecting citizenship, not taking it away. The presumption of intent to keep citizenship acts as a powerful shield. The requirement that the government prove voluntary intent makes it extremely difficult for anyone to lose citizenship accidentally. Even when someone technically performs an act that appears on the expatriation list, that alone is almost never enough. The law looks deeper, asking what you truly meant and what your overall behavior shows. This is why millions of Americans live abroad, hold dual citizenship, work internationally, and still remain fully and safely American. Understanding these rules shouldn't make you fearful. Instead, it should make you more aware of how valuable and protected your citizenship really is. Knowledge replaces anxiety with confidence. When you know the boundaries, you can live freely within them. You can travel, build a global career, and maintain connections to other countries without constantly worrying that one wrong move will cost you everything. That's the real purpose of learning this information, not to scare you, but to empower you. Citizenship is meant to be a stable foundation for your life, not a fragile status hanging by a thread. And the American legal system, despite all its complexity, is designed to keep it that way. So let me leave you with one final perspective. U.S. citizenship is more than just a legal label. It's a relationship between you and a nation. It represents rights, freedoms, and opportunities that millions of people around the world dream of having. It also represents responsibilities to respect the Constitution, to follow the laws, and to remain loyal to the country that granted you that status. The 7 reasons we've discussed today outline the outer limits of that relationship. They show what kinds of actions are considered so serious, so incompatible with American allegiance that citizenship can be lost, but they also reveal something deeper. They reveal how strongly the United States values citizenship and how carefully the law guards it. The fact that citizenship can't be taken away without clear consent is a powerful statement about individual rights and personal freedom. It means that being an American isn't something the government can casually revoke. It's something you choose to keep day after day through your actions and intentions. For those of you who are already citizens, I hope this video has given you a clearer understanding of how secure your status truly is, as long as you act thoughtfully and responsibly. For those of you still on the path to citizenship, I hope it has helped you appreciate the seriousness and the privilege of the commitment you're working toward. Becoming an American isn't just about passing a test or receiving a certificate. It's about entering into a lifelong bond with a country and its ideals. If you take that bond seriously, protect it wisely, and stay informed about the laws that govern it, your citizenship will remain safe and strong. Thank you for spending this time with me today and for caring enough to learn about a topic that affects your future. Your effort to understand the law is exactly what responsible citizenship looks like. Keep asking questions, keep staying informed, and keep building the life you want in the United States. Until next time, take care of yourself, protect what you've earned, and thank you for being here.